The New York Times story dropped on a Monday, and in the time since, this group has convened press conference after press conference. We convened outside George Santos's fake Whitestone address, where he claimed he lived. We convened outside the federal courthouse in Islip, calling for an investigation from the U.S. Attorney. We convened outside his campaign headquarters, where he hatched so many of his fantastic lies. We convened here just last week at his district office, and you'll notice behind me that nobody seems to work here, and the name of our former congressman is on the awning. We'll continue to convene and hold him accountable. It is clear from George Santos' own words that he will not resign. He has said that he's not going anywhere, and despite pressure from Republican and Democratic elected officials, despite outrage from constituents here, despite making local, state, federal, and international headlines, he refuses to go. I think what's interesting is George Santos went on far-right extremist Matt Gaetz' podcast, and he said, "I hope you have the strength that I have when they come for you." But what George Santos is doing is the opposite of strength. He's behaving like a petulant child. He's showing weakness, not showing up for the voters who elected him, not showing up to do the job that he got elected to do, but hiding and speaking only to those who give him safe comfort. We are here today to say that if George Santos does not come to the voters, then the voters will come to Mr. Santos. And that is why today we are launching the Where's George campaign. We are encouraging people all across Long Island and Queens, if you see George Santos in public, take a picture of him and upload it to social media with the hashtag Where's George. Again, if George Santos won't come to us, then we'll come to him. What George Santos has made clear is that he thinks these 2 years are going to be a walk in the park. George Santos believes that people will simply forget about this story. He believes that he'll weather the storm and that these 2 years will be a cakewalk. I am here to remind you, George, that we will make every single day in this district a living nightmare until you find us. You will not be able to go into the bagel store. You won't be able to go into the supermarket. You won't be able to get a bite to eat. Everywhere you go, we will be there to hold you accountable. You don't get to run for Congress and hide from the people who voted for you. You don't get away with being the biggest fraud in modern American political history. And we will work day and night to hold you accountable. Now, George Santos doesn't live in this district. In fact, George Santos may not even be a citizen. And I continue to challenge him to provide a record of your birth certificate. George Santos, we know, doesn't live here, but what George Santos doesn't know is that Long Islanders don't give up that easy. We're not just going to roll over and accept the fact that our congressman is a con man, a liar, and a fraud. We don't give up that easy, and we'll continue to join as Republicans and Democrats together to hold him accountable, to call him out, and make every single day a living nightmare until he does the right thing and resigns. And so again, if you see George Santos in public, and now George Santos, after a week of being our congressman, has a week off from Washington, so we know he's coming home. Let's give George Santos the warm reception and welcome that he deserves. And so if you see George Santos, upload a picture of him with the hashtag Where's George. If George Santos won't come to us, then we will come to George Santos. Thank you. And now you'll hear from a number of residents, all who live within the district, all who are uniquely outraged. And we'll start with two residents from the group Concerned Citizens of New York's 3rd Congressional District, Aiden Davis and Jody Cass-Finkel.
Thank you. Thank you, Josh. I'm going to, here, come sit next to me. So I'm going to say a few words first, and then I'm going to turn it over to Josh, who's on our steering committee.
You spell your names too.
Jody Cass-Finkel, Jodykassfinkel. So I wanted to tell you what Concerned Citizens of New York 03 is first. It is an ad hoc group of residents who have formed in the last 2 weeks, and we're united in our anger about the deception that George Santos has made this whole place a living embarrassment. And we are a nonpartisan group. We are not affiliated with any elected official. We are not affiliated with any party. We are not affiliated with any candidate. And we see that we have a very, very narrow focus, which is just to get George Santos removed and then to have a free and fair election. We're not going to be weighing in on candidates. We just want to make sure we get rid of this guy. So we see that there are two paths to get rid of him, right? Two potential paths. One of them is to force him to resign. So he's made very, very clear that he's not going to resign. We're very happy that all of our Democratic leaders have, and all of our Republican leaders have asked George Santos to resign. That's a great thing. But it's only half a step. It's not even a full step. Because if George Santos doesn't resign, we're stuck with him. What we need is the second path also, which is we need Congress to expel him. I know that's extraordinary, but these are extraordinary times. George Santos is a national story. He's a national embarrassment. We have never seen anything like this before. So we are looking to get Congress to expel. And the first step to do that is we need to have a united district. We need to go to Congress united. Our Republican leaders, our Democratic leaders need to join hands and say we want him to resign, but if he won't resign, we want to be very clear, we will push to have Congress expel him. With that in mind, Concerned Citizens of New York has put together a bipartisan statement on congressional integrity. I'm going to read it, actually. It's 3 sentences. The citizens of New York's 3rd Congressional District join with our Republican and Democratic local leaders to repudiate George Santos due to his lies and falsehoods. We call on George Santos to resign from his position as the representative of New York's 3rd Congressional District in the U.S. House of Representatives. We call on the U.S. House of Representatives to expel George Santos from Congress if he will not resign. So we have asked all of our leaders to sign it, and so far Tom Suozzi, Robert Zimmerman, John Kamen, Josh Lafazan, Melanie DeRigo, Rima Rasool, and Jay Jacobs have signed. We're waiting to hear from Joe Cairo, Bruce Blakeman, and Jack Martins. You'll see those are empty. Those lines are empty. And so yesterday we issued a press release, which we shared amongst you, essentially saying if you're not willing to sign this, you're paying lip service to the voters of this district, because we need him gone. We can't be here for the 2 years that it's going to take for an ethics investigation, especially now that Congress is looking to gut that. We need him to be expelled. We've confirmed with some very well regarded attorneys. There is no reason that we have to wait for an ethics investigation. The House can expel him now. The law requires that, or the Constitution, I believe, requires 2/3 majority to vote in order to get expulsion. We assume that we'll probably already have the whole Democratic caucus. We'll need 78 Republicans to join with the Democrats to make that happen. I think there are about 11 or 12 Democrats just from New York State. So we're going to be looking to our state elected officials as well. As soon as we get all our local elected officials on board, we're going to be looking to our state elected, our federal elected officials from New York State to join with us as well, because we're going to need them to make a very clear statement that we are united in New York, that we need to get rid of him. And we're going to be relying on our New York representatives in both sides, in both Republican and Democrat, to work with their fellow members of Congress to convince them that enough is enough. This is lowering the bar. This is unacceptable. This is un-American. This squatter who's sitting in our seat at the House of Representatives. One of the things that we want to know, the citizens want to know, did George Santos fund his campaign from a Ponzi scheme that defrauded investors of $1.7 million? We know he's a liar. Is he a cheater also? It looks like he is. We need a free and fair election. Yesterday's news was all about how angry we are. Many of you covered that. we need you to cover this. We need you to tell everybody that we need to have a united district. We need Republicans, we need Democrats, we need our local elected officials to get together and join hands and call for his expulsion from Congress. We need our members of Congress from the entire state to do that. So we very much hope that you'll cover this. And with that, I'm going to turn it over. We have the Concerned Citizens of New York 03 is an organization that brings together residents from across the district, and we have a steering committee from around the district who is guiding what we're doing and the strategies and the carrying out of the strategies. And one of our superstars is Aiden Davis from Plainview. Aiden, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'll hold your sign for you.
Thank you. Hi everyone, I'm Aiden Davis, Aidan Davis, and I'm from Plainview. Oh, look at that, it's so funny.
Yeah, take a minute.
Right. So I'm a member of Concerned Citizens of New York 3. As Jody said, we are a nonpartisan ad hoc group with the goal of getting George Santos out and getting a free and fair special election. Right now, George Santos has been derelict in his duty to the citizens of New York 3 and the people that voted for him. Obviously, he hasn't opened a district office, which provides valuable constituent services to New York 3. And the fact that we were directed by the Nassau GOP to go to Congressman Desposito's office for any constituent services that we need shows that we aren't being represented in Congress. And that's a disgrace. Obviously, George Santos is a stain, as was described by the Nassau Republicans, on New York 3 and our district, and the country. And so we need to be organizing, and we are organizing, to get him out. Concerned Citizens in New York 3 is on social media. Our Twitter handle is CCNY03. We're on Instagram, Concerned Citizens of New York 3. And we have a Facebook page for residents of New York 3, of New York 03. I believe it's just called Concerned Citizens of New York 03 on Facebook. I have slips of paper with the information if anybody needs and wants to reference it later. We've been putting out press releases. We've been organizing to get George Santos out and give this congressional seat back to the people. So, thank you.
That's great.
Thank you, Aiden and Jody. Next, we have Jonathan Rudis, who is from Delphi Real Estate Advisors and is a leader in the senior citizen community in Woodbury.
So R-U-D-E-S as in Sam, Jonathan, J-O-N-A-T-H-A-N. Okay, I'm a Long Island businessman, also an advocate for the senior community in Long Island, and clearly we have issues. We have economic issues, we have social issues. We need somebody to represent us fairly in Congress, and clearly George Santos isn't going to be able to do it for us, right? I think if the Republicans feel that they want to keep Santos there, keep another liar, con man, weirdo, wacko in Congress, then they should probably make him their poster boy. But frankly, he's not helping Long Island. So impeach him, we'll make him the poster boy. Thank you.
Thank you, John. We'll now hear from another leader in the community, Sheila Harmon from the North Shore Towers community.
Hello, it's Harmon, H-A-R-M-O-N. As a senior citizen, I've been around for a long time and worked on political campaigns for the last 50 years. I have never seen anything like this, and I've worked with both Republicans and Democrats. This is just horrible behavior that no congressman or politician should model for the community. He's not there for us, and we need somebody. I worked in a Central American country for 6 years, and this is the kind of government that has been produced from Central America, unfortunately. and we should not lower ourselves to that level. And he should resign immediately.
Thank you, Sheila. Thank you. Well said. We'll now hear from a youth leader, high school civic activist, and an amazing young woman, Marion Karp.
Hello, my name is Marion Karp, M-A-R-I-O-N-K-A-R-P, and I'm Mamaroneck High School, and I am 17 years old, and I am here today to stand up for my community and represent the opinions of so many constituents who are frustrated and tired of the lies we have heard, and we are demanding justice in our community. We are standing behind an empty storefront, and we are not being represented, and our views are not being accounted for in Congress, which is a tragedy and a contradiction to the values of our democracy. And I'm 17 years old. I should be in school, but I am here because of the lies of Santos, and we have to stand up to that, and we have to act. And I urge the constituents to stand up and use their power of speech and utilize the social media campaign we are launching to voice their cries and make it known that we will not stand for this. The youth is rising up. We're all rising up in unity as a district and as a community. No matter your party and no matter your beliefs, we all know that this will not stand and we will not accept it. So we're here and we're organizing and we're mobilizing to make our views clear and to demand justice for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Marion. Well said, and you see why she's a superstar, and her mom is here, so we signed her out for a couple periods. Two last speakers we have. One is Vicki Cosgrove, who lives recently in Queens, and she's brought a special guest with her.
Hi, my name is Vicki Cosgrove. That's V-I-C-K-Y, C-O-S-G-R-O-V-E. I am an angry New York City citizen. I am furious about this man. I had a great-grandfather who was in the Civil War. He was a volunteer. He wasn't a coward. And this man comes to my community and thinks he's going to represent me. I'm so disgusted. I made this poster. I used to be a kindergarten teacher. I made this poster. This is him lying and running from his constituents. He says that he's not going to listen to the congressman telling him, I don't listen to politicians telling me to leave. He said, I'll listen to my 142 constituents that voted for me. Well, he's not counting the people like me who did not vote for him, and now all the people who did vote for him that no longer want him as their representative. So I would like to see him running with his pants on fire and out of this country even. Maybe they should prosecute him in Brazil for the checks that he stole and the money that he was using that was not his. And this is what I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you, Vicki. Thank you. And thank you for your special guest as well.
Oh, yeah.
Lastly is concerned resident from the 3rd District, Aileen Abramson.
Hello. Unlike a lot of these people, I've never done this before, so it's a little overwhelming for me. I was asked what I might want to say, and there's so many messages going through my head at the same time. It's hard to really narrow it down, but I did just hear Hakeem Jeffries in some interview say something to the effect of how the Republicans are now in the House of Representatives. They're running the House, and it's time for them to clean house. I thought that was well said, and the first order of business is to throw him out. When you think about cleaning house and throwing out, maybe they should start with George Santos. And I guess that's the main message, and obviously we'd like him to resign, and if he's not going to resign, I would love for him to find someone else who does represent us, because the best way he could represent us is by finding someone else to represent us. That's honest.
Well said. Thank you, Aileen. So you've heard from a number of concerned residents. These are Republicans and Democrats, concerned citizens, Americans of good conscience who are outraged that our congressman is a liar and a fraud and seems to have no shame. Right? The moral depravity to lie in the fashion that he did, to lie about his grandparents being involved in the Holocaust, to lie about his employees dying in the Pulse nightclub shooting, to lie about literally every single line on his resume. It is an abomination and it's outrageous. And George Santos has said that he will not resign. He said he's only guilty of embellishing his resume. And so George Santos thinks the next 2 years, he'll simply be able to weather the storm. He thinks he will simply be able to hide from the press, to not show up for the voters who elected him, and he thinks that this will just die down. We are here to remind George Santos that we are not going anywhere, that the citizens in this district will not be silent, will not just accept this. We will rise up and we will hold him accountable every single day. George Santos, if you are watching, when you come home to this district next week, even though you won't come to us, we will come to you. And so again, we are encouraging everyone in this district who is outraged like we are. When you see George Santos, post a picture of him with the hashtag Where's George. If George Santos won't come to the voters who elected him, then the voters in this district will come to George Santos, and we will make every single day a living nightmare until he does the right thing and resigns. With that, I'm happy to take any questions. Yeah. Yeah. I think it is, right? We started the day after the New York Times story dropped, and we stood outside George Santos's house, and I was the first elected official to call for his resignation. Day after day, we're building coalitions, right? Ad hoc groups have formed. Republicans have been called out to speak out about this. Everyday citizens are being educated about what he's done, so we are making progress. The fact that a couple of weeks ago, we would know today that Republican members of Congress would call on him to resign, it was unthinkable, right? People of their own party are slow and they have trepidation to turn against one of their own. We are making progress here. The only hurdle that we have to go is making George Santos decide to do the right thing, right? We know that as a person, he's one of the most dishonorable people to ever serve in public office, I think, to let alone walk this earth. And so if he won't do it out of goodwill and conscience, he will have to do it out of the pressure and fear. Because every single day when you wake up and you're George Santos, and you come in this district, and you have people posting your picture, and you have people calling you a liar, and you have people calling on you to resign, and you have media cameras shoved in your face, at some point, it's just not worth it.
Should we also ask why, George? Why did he do this? Did he put faith on his real resume? Or is something bigger fabricating all that for him?
We should ask why, George. And when you say why, George, my question is why run? Right, when you run for public office, and I've been in elected office for 10 years, you have a why. A why. Some people want to make a difference on a specific issue. Some want to get involved in their community. Some believe that government is broken and they want to bring people together. Why George Santos ran, it's clear that he ran simply to become famous, and he got his wish. Except, I think he's infamous.
Any of the folks here vote for Santos and now regret it?
Sure. So we've been asked this question. Anyone's welcome to speak up. We have Republicans and Democrats here who've joined us. If anyone wants to speak, but I don't believe anyone's voted for George here.
And just as a follow-up, I believe you were saying that the three Republicans who hadn't signed a paper, but they did publicly go in front of the cameras and call for Santos to resign.
Right. And we applaud that. It's a wonderful thing they did it, but it's half the step. And it's great because it'll add pressure for him to resign. But he's already, while they were doing their press conference, George Santos said he wasn't going to resign. We can't live with this man as our representative for 2 years. There's one other path, and that is to get Congress to expel. And they have refused so far to sign off on that. And that's why we're saying it's lip service unless they sign. And we really want to work with them. We want their help. We need their help. We need their help with our state representatives that are Republican. We need help with the members of Congress that are Republican. So we need a united district.
From your research, what basis is there for expulsion?
The Constitution, I don't know if, I didn't go to law school, but I'll answer it quickly. That's why I didn't go to law school. But I did speak to a very, very well-known lawyer just as recently as this morning to make sure that an ethics investigation is not required. The Constitution allows the House to make the decision based on whatever the House wants to make its decision on.
And right. Yes.
That's what the Constitution calls for.
And
that's right.
Carolyn, I can answer that. So, in terms of the legal grounds to expel George Santos, as Jody said, there doesn't need to be, but there is significant potential criminal activity that he engaged in. And if you remember, we stood outside the federal courthouse in Islip calling for an investigation by the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District. In terms of the potential crimes he committed, first of all, we know he may have committed voter fraud by registering at an address in which he did not live, because we stood outside that Whitestone address that he listed, and the landlord had never heard of him. We know there's a potential conspiracy to defraud the United States in regards to donations from Russian oligarchs. We know that there is significant potential for campaign finance violation. George Santos loaned his campaign $700,000 in 2022. Yet when he ran for Congress in 2020, he listed that he made $55,000. George Santos didn't strike it rich and become rich overnight. Somebody gave him that $700,000, and that's what's called a straw man donation. It is illegal, and that punishment alone is worthy of jail time. And we know, as the New York Times just reported, Redstone Strategies was a group that convened to raise money for George Santos's campaign. We know they approached several wealthy donors who donated tens of thousands of dollars, yet there was not one ad that was reported from that group. And so we believe that was a potential conspiracy to raise money under false pretenses, which is a violation of campaign finance laws as well. So,
I just want to add, New York 03 voters aren't stupid. We know when folks are trying to delay. We've been living with it for a long time well, we're not going to go there. But what we're looking for, we know that this does not require, congressional action does not require an ethics investigation, although we certainly support an ethics investigation. We'd like that to continue while he's out of office and hopefully in prison. It does not require a criminal indictment or a conviction. We know that. He's a stain on this district, he's a stain on the country, and we need Congress to act, and that's what we're pushing for.
Well said. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question for John.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
So yesterday, George Santos said he was asked by reporters, and he reiterated in his interview that he'll step down when 142,000 people, his voters, would tell him to. Your thoughts on that?
Well, we probably could walk around and get 142,000 signatures. I'm sure that there's 142,000 people on Long Island who's heard about this and willing to sign up. But frankly, I think George Santos' only hope is that this is gonna die down. I want to tell George Santos this is not dying down, right? We're going to keep up the pressure, and if we have to get 142,000 signatures, we're ready to go do it.
I'd like to add to that.
I'd like to add to that too.
So here's my reaction. I have actually 4 reactions. One is, why should we believe him? He's lied about everything. He sends us out to go the broomstick of the Wicked Witch of the West, and we're going to come back, and then we're going to ask him to resign? I don't think that's going to happen. I don't believe it. And my second reaction is, how dare he? How dare he put the burden on the people that he lied to? That is absolutely unacceptable. We have a lame duck as our representative before he even starts. We need to get rid of him.
Thank you. Well said. Oh. Yep.
I was actually hoping someone would ask about the 142,000 votes, so thank you for asking that. The answer to that question in my mind is he's lied about everything else. Why should we assume that his statement that he'll resign when he gets that number of votes, why should anybody put any stock in that? There's nothing to say because he's lying about everything else, so he's lying about that too.
That's a good point.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Oh, just lastly, sorry, John's wife, Shelley, wanted to say something. Sorry.
My name's Shelley Rudess, R-U-D-E-S. The only comment I really have is, as Republicans, they should be ashamed of themselves that he is what's representing them. And if any of you are Republicans, this garbage reflects the whole Republican Party.
Any last questions, or? All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you. All right.
Oh, I know. They just do it with a little more finesse. Good for you. Good for you.
You want to come with us? Great. Hi, thank you. All right, let's just go to the red-headed cameraman. Do you want to come with me? Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you want to get lunch here?
Well, we're going to get some food. We're going to do this interview. But,
do you want to get lunch at this Greek place? Or do you want to go to my house?
whatever you say. You're the local. Hi.
Hi.
So you're going to look at me, okay? This is not live. Don't worry. We're not going to trip you out.
Okay.
Good? Yeah. Okay. All right, cool. Just remind me your full name and spelling.
Yeah, so my name is Marion Karp, Marionkarp.
Okay. And you're an active, tell us what you're a...
Yes, so I am a high school activist, and I'm very involved in social justice in my community. And over the summer, I had the privilege of working with legislator Lafazan, and we worked together, and I was an intern with him, and I was really exposed to everything relating to the legislative process, especially in this district. And I had the privilege of working with the constituents and hearing their needs and really learning about what this community needs and what needs to be accomplished in Congress. And as I spent my summer really just working with the community and engaging with the voters, I learned a lot about the issues that are facing this district and the change that we need to see here in our community. And that's, to me, what makes this the biggest disgrace of all, is that, you know, hands-on I was able to see why this is such an issue and why we need representation and why it's so important. You know, we have the right to access a voice in Congress, and we have the right to make our voices heard, and we're here doing that, and I think that's very important.
Great. How old are you?
17 years old.
Okay, so you're not a voter yet, right?
I'm not a voter yet.
Okay, but tell us what you think of Santos and, you know, as a personal, you know, whatever, you know,
Definitely.
as a figure,
Yes.
As you become voting age and all
Right.
that stuff, right?
So as I'm learning about the legislative process and really getting ready to hit the voting age, and just as a student, I'm really learning about democracy, and I find Santos's story particularly troubling because the political climate right now is very divisive, and coming of age during this sort of political climate it's really emphasizing the importance of democratic values and integrity in politics, and to see a story like this is very hurtful to the youth activists who are here day after day. You know, there are things we could be doing at the ripe age of 17 years old, but we're here and we want to make our voices heard. And I find this story troubling because you know, we're doing everything we can to help our community and help those in need, and there are so many in need, and yet we just find ourselves being wronged by the people who are supposed to be lifting our community up and supposed to make a vow to protect us with integrity, and they're not doing that. And you know, it takes the voice of so many kids who are just trying to learn about democracy and trying to exist in a world where they can make a difference, and yet we run into stories like this and it derails our efforts, and it's horrible and it's very disheartening.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you.
Good luck. Keep going.